Okay, that should do it. Let's get to this. We are going to be working on a couple of things. Well, not really. This is more like just going through a game dem that I just completed. But I also wanted to go over the really fast and dirty state machine that I had made into the game jam. Um, the idea of it was fairly simple. And it worked. It just that I felt for the sake of just being a bit more complete about things, that I wanted to come back and explain a bug that I hit in the ending of the game jam. So the state machine itself works fine in the editor, but once we actually compiled the project and tried to put it out, we had an issue. So let me just show you what that issue is. It was a single line of code. Um, so you could always just go back and fix it if you would like on your own, if you were following along with that and started using it. But again, this issue would only show up when. One sec. I need to. There we go. So yeah, this issue would only show up when you compiled your game, if you were using the state machine. So it's a kind of sucky one that the editor itself doesn't complain about it. So I'll show state machine. Yeah, it's in here. So in the initializer for the I already had it open. So in the initializer for the state, is this it? Yeah, I think. Let's make this bigger. There we go. Where am I? I think this is it. Oh, I collapsed it. That's why. Okay. So yeah, it's right here, this part. So I did a changeover. So before this was here, um, there's a couple of things. There's a way that this looks. I'm gonna actually just comment it out. So you can. I'm gonna just retype what it looked like before I changed it to that. That's. It would look something like if states size is less than 1, and then I would just do free. Right? This creates an error on the compiler, and the compiler will simply not compile your state machine, any state machine, on request. It doesn't even matter if this is true or false. It's just that this piece of code right here, whatever this is doing, at compile time, it does not like it. So the solution to this is actually just built into how I had set this up to begin with extends ref counted. So because I do extends ref counted, I can get away with doing a toggle on this. And actually just delete this. And just doing it this way. So now there's a couple things that are happening here. One is we're checking to see if the state manager even exists before we try to do this. Because if it doesn't exist, we don't need to do this anyway. Ref counted will take care of it behind the scenes. It's just something that ref counted is doing. It's tracking all of objects in Godot, so it handles its own queue-free process. I don't need to actually call free on it for it to be handled in data. But the caveat to that is this object cannot exist anywhere in an active case sense. Like there shouldn't be. This object cannot be stored anywhere for ref counted to then say, okay, it's time to get rid of it. So it doesn't work exactly how I intended it to work, but this is one of those cases where it's good enough, right? Where if you've made a state machine and it has no objects in it, then it will remove itself from the state manager. And if you try to attach processes to that, you're going to get an issue, which is going to say, hey, that state doesn't actually exist that you're trying to add this process to. Right? You're going to basically just going to get a null state, which is good to get that in the editor. It lets you know that you messed up somewhere. So let's go to the state manager real quick just to look at what remove is doing. It's very simple. I just added this line here to make sure that we don't try to call erase on a machine that doesn't exist. So this is like a double check anyway. And this is it. These are the changes that I made to the state machine. So this version of the state machine will operate at compile time, which is perfectly fine. I was actually debating if I should turn this into a asset on the Godot asset library. I'm not sure what the process looks like for that, but it is what it is. Hopefully, if I get enough feedback on people who think that it's useful, I could possibly just push it there. It's just a generalized event-driven state machine. It was done extremely fast, so I still need to make one more thing for this if I want to turn it into an asset, which is to make it so that way the state manager, this class here, will set itself as a auto load once you've imported the asset into your project. So that's the only thing that's probably left over, and I don't know how to do that. I have to actually look that up, but I know that it's doable. Then it would probably just be like some type of editor script that goes off as a tool as soon as you start your Godot. It checks to see if you have this and then adds it or something as your auto load. That way you can just get access to it. So like in this case, we used it here inside of the parasite script. Right here, right? And we did stuff like set up the parasite, the pathing, winning, dying, and all kinds of stuff. I'm not going to go into all of this code. It's just, you know, it's a whole lot. If there's a desire for it, sure, I'll go into it. Game functions. Let's actually run it and see what's going on here. So yeah, it was myself, Kasnick's organizer. Well, he invited us. Tommy is the artist behind it, and Wise was the programmer. He handled a lot of the UI stuff, so, but he put me for UI, but it was mostly him on UI. He did a banger job on the UI too. Like this scene here, I don't think you can hear the music from the game, but there is supposed to be music playing. Anyway, let's play. So we can select one of these 3 levels. All of these work. The premise of the game is to say reverse tower defense. So these are the towers, and we get these 3 parasites that we can spawn. The theme of the game jam was parasites. So Tommy just, he was a little bit lost in translation early on, but then he made this guy, which we decided to stick with because it was damn good enough. But he was of the mind that it was like viruses or something like that with computers and things. So that's kind of where like the electricity around the tower things and like the little antenna comes in. But we gave him some pictures of like what we believe is meant by parasites. But even still, we like the whole technology route that he went, and we tried to keep that spirit in it. So this part doesn't work. Well, it does work. Technically, it's actually functional. It just doesn't represent itself on the screen. So like you can actually, well, so what happened is I had finished this part, and I did not realize that Wise had pushed on Git, and when I went to push, I broke my main file, which broke everything that I did. I just gave up at that point and said, you know what, I'm totally not going to do that again, because we had an arrangement originally that he was going to handle UI and I was going to be handling the data, AI logic, and so on. And then he asked me to do some stuff with the UI. And so I said, okay, I'll take care of this part, which is this little bouncing around stuff that you see here. And I'll take care of this part, which is the element selection. And then at some point in like the middle of the, oh, let me start spawning stuff. At some point in the middle of the night, he started actually There we go. Da, da, da. He pushed something dealing with the UI. Still don't know what he pushed, but he pushed something, and the end result was, well, the end result was it broke. So I left it. I took a day away from the project, came back, and we finished up a lot of stuff. But that time that I took away really did hit hard towards the end, I think, because there were some issues that we should have just caught right off the bat. Like, you need to spare. The thing with game jams is you need to spare. You need to always make sure you spare um, some time for dealing with the actual exporting of your project, because whatever happens when you export, you're guaranteed that the conditions that you're exporting into are different than that's are different from the conditions of the editor. That's broken. This thing, I think, should be at a higher layer, so these guys should be running behind it, not above it, but whatever. It's not broken. Is it? Am I winning? I can't really see. Oh, yeah. So this is obviously the easiest level, but it still is going to get close because we have the timer over here. You'll notice that these particle effects are all over the place. Technically, it shouldn't have been like that. We had this whole idea that these were going to like auto upgrade over time and so on, but we just never got to implement that. Different reasons. We had an additional programmer that was going to be with us that's going to be handling more of that stuff, but he got preoccupied with something else, or he just was getting confused. So we just proceeded the best that we could. It looks like I win, because once these guys go through, they deal like the big chunks, like you'll see. Yep, there we go. And we won. Oh, wait, we still need like a few more. It looks like we won, but yeah, we need like a little bit more. Oh, we only have 15 seconds. That's bad. Hopefully, I wasn't really focused in. I should have focused in, but we should be okay. 5, 4. Okay, there we go. So there was, or rather, in the this game is on itch. You can goof around with it. What's going on here? Oh, back to level select. There we go. So, you can goof around with it, but that version of it is brokenish. Like, you have to refresh the page. As of this live stream, you have to refresh the page in order to play from level to level. Like, you can play level 1, but then you have to refresh your page to play level 2, and that's because of just some silly coding that I messed up on in the tick count. Like, I reset one variable, but I forgot to reset the other one also. And then I realized you don't really need both variables anyway, so I just changed that. This version works perfectly fine with it. Let's try out level 2. So there's a built-in tick counter that's going on right now in the background. That is basically, it's handling this countdown. It's handling everything. So even these are all based on the same tick. Everything is going off on that tick, which is pretty cool. I find it very very nice. All right. So my strat when it comes to oh yeah, so each map has less time, but at the same time this has less HP. But also at the same time there's a few more towers, so my strat has always just been to spam. Like, I just let this build up and then I spam as much as I can, which has been working. So I wait until this is around, like, I think 6 is a safe number. And that should still give me enough time for the heavy boys to make their way over to it. So there's 3 of them. There's the normal ones, there's the speedy guys, and then there's the heavy guys. But it looks like the values are off for some reason. I don't know what's going on here. Oh, maybe not. It's actually... No, the values are off. I think. It should be... Well, we'll check right now. This one, the numbers between these two seem fine. But this should go up. See, it went to 12, 13. This should go up to 14 before this goes up to... Yeah, the number is a bit off, I think. It should be every 3 here, this goes up 1, and every 3 here, this goes up 1. But it's weird. Anyway, let's try to win this. So first we spawn as many of these boys as possible. I'm gonna go out. Al did a great job there. Now we send these guys out in a stream to cover for them. The idea is that to try to get those chunky boys out there as healthy as possible, because the more health the parasites have by the time they reach the end, the more damage they're going to do to the finishing goal. I didn't really take the time to really appreciate the art, I'll be honest. Like, he did such a banger job on it. Let's send 2 more guys out there. So it's A and D to select the parasite that you want to spawn, and I'm just left clicking. Right, so those towers, we were supposed to have this whole upgrade system and whatnot, and they're going to be randomly getting attached stats and things to their shots, but we just didn't have the time to really push that through. It sucks, but it is what it is. Okay, there we go. So now I send the speedy boys in, and they're gonna dash in through, and whatever can make it makes it. But we have the big boys coming in, and then we have the speedy boys going in at the same time, and this has just been my strat. Alright, and yep, we tap, tap, tap. The speedy guys don't have much hit points, but the big guys, if they do manage to make it, like they just did, they'll do a chunk. There we go. And then now we just have to try to get... Oh, shoot. It looks like we're gonna lose. I needed to get maybe like 2 or 3 more big boys in there. Oh well, that's fine. Win some, you lose some. So I would say it's actually fairly balanced out. Yeah. There's no way I can win this. I made a mistake on my grand strategy, but that's the meta, I swear. You try to just wait until like a specific point. Like, I'm used to the first one, so it was easy, but so I haven't done the second one enough. But I have beaten this, it's just... I've done the first one way more times, so I was just more used to the timing. And then level 2. Or, sorry, this is level 3. So, yeah, Wise went kind of crazy with the amount of towers he put on this map. I really like this loop. This was awesome. And yeah, this one actually... So here's the thing. When you make a map that has this many, it kind of throws the whole concept of balance for a loop. Right? But I wanted to find that magic spot that all of these were still winnable with a strat. So despite what it looks like, it's actually made so that way the rate that we're getting these increases to match the difficulty of the maps. So right now we should be spawning, I believe, at close to 3 times the rate over here. So I'm just gonna wait a little bit. Probably like 2 minutes and 30 is when I'm going to start really like once I get to 6 here, because I'm not sure. I think 6 of these guys should be able to make it to the end within 2 minutes. Pretty sure. So once we see 6, we start spawning, and then we send our boys to cover them. Come on. There we go. So we just spam that, and then we just send these boys out there to cover for them. Right, so those little particles, the red, the orange, the blue, the green, are supposed to represent the different damage types. The problem is that, well, we never got to implement that. So technically, you should be able to use your W and S keys to select your elements. And this part actually works. Like, if I knew which element was actually being selected, I could technically change the element of the parasites. And behind the scenes, the data will recognize that the element of the parasite has changed. The problem starts to happen when we look at the visualization. There's nothing to truly visualize that, hey, this parasite's actually fiery element or whatever, right? It has that attribute. So we could have just put like a little like marker over the parasite is what I was thinking in the end. I kind of wanted to do like a particle effect on them, but I think a marker would have been better. Just to say, hey, yeah, this is a fire parasite or whatnot. But unfortunately, because we had that hiccup in, oh boy, yeah, this is not good. This is rough. I need to speed these guys through real quick. My chunky boys might not make it. No. I needed to wait longer. So just looking at it, I could have waited another 30 or so seconds. About 20 seconds I could have waited before, because the last one stopped around right here. So I could have waited like 20 more seconds, and I would have gotten the win, and I would have had quite a few big boys over there, is what I'm thinking. But this one is definitely rough. But on the upside, these are just spawning much better. But it was designed with these elements in mind, the balance originally, so it's kind of hard. It was kind of hard to balance it out. But because we weren't able to do that, if you could set, like, for example, let's say the AI randomly started giving the towers more fire, then you could select a fire element for your parasites, which cost a little bit more to bring them out. But you could have done that, and then you'd be immune to fire damage and things like that. But then, like, if there is like a fire and then a water or something, whatever the fire was weak against, I'm not sure. Then you would then take twice as much damage, where before you were just invincible to fire damage. Now you're taking twice because you're facing, let's say, it's water damage. All right, but that's the that was the game. That's where we were. So it was a pretty fun game jam. It definitely was a learning experience. Um, the state machine works perfectly fine as is. It was just the compiled. It was just that free call that really threw it for a loop. And it has this happening right here anyway, which is handling the notification. So technically we don't even need this part. Oh wait, this is handling something else. But this is handling if we remove the object. Gotcha. That's cool. So this is handling if we remove, let's say that whatever the owner object of this is, if we do a queue free on it, this will handle also letting the state manager push a remove. So we could actually do this, notify manager of removal self. So we don't need this. we could actually just do this. Or we could actually do this. There. So that's doing the same exact thing before. But this time we don't need to worry about if we're connected to, or if the state manager is set up or not. So it's a nice thing not to have to worry about that call. And that's it. So that'll be the end of this stream. I don't think, I mean, I'm going to be working on my main project. I'm just going to take like a small, fortunately this game jam didn't pull everything out of me like that last one with Brachus, which was crazy. There's something to be said for having a second programmer with you, right? There's ups and downs to it. The obvious ups is that you can be dealing with different parts of the project. You just have to be very careful about making sure that you don't step on each other's toes. And you're going to have to deal with that at some point. You're going to end up stepping on each other's toes and just hope that it's not at a critical time. All right? It's really just getting over it at that point. And in my case, it usually takes me, depending on how severe the stepping is, it takes me proportional to the how dumb I feel like I am. If I feel like that was a really dumb thing for me to have gone through or done, it can take me like up to a day. So in that case, I was like, I typically always check the Git to make sure that there's nothing to pull before I start working. And unfortunately, at that moment, I didn't check, and there was. I truly did not expect anything to have been there because I started working super early in the morning on it, and it was like weird to see something there because I had stopped working on it super late at night. So it's like between it. Like within that 4 or 5 hour period, work was done and pushed. Which is insane that it happens. And once you get over it, then you can get your project done, and it's not too bad. All right. So yeah, I guess if there's anything I could say about the jam, I like week-long jams. This one felt a little bit like it was a little bit too long. Because so here's the thing. We could have gotten the project that you just saw done in probably around 3 days, and yeah, about 3 days. It would have taken us 3 days. It would have taken us probably 2 days, maybe a day and a half, if everyone was just clear-eyed about what we needed to take care of, right, beforehand. Unfortunately, we just didn't have that clarity of focus immediately. So in reality, it would have taken us maybe about 4 days to get everything done. Because it just depends. Like if everybody's already on board, if everybody just, because like we decided on this genre just by doing a spin wheel thing. We just threw a whole bunch of genres that we could incorporate parasites into, then spun a wheel on it. And the wheel decided for us on this type of game. So we did it. And it was fun. I got introduced to some pretty cool people, and I learned that I develop super slowly, and there's ups and downs to that, right? Like I consider my code to be explicit and very easy to navigate against. Like if you're new, you probably don't even need documentation when you're looking at what I do. You can just come in and kind of figure out, hey, this is what this does, because I try to keep my functions handling one specific thing all the time. Like, let's look. So, like, this is just handling one specific thing. This is handling one specific thing. Let's actually just look at Parasite real quick. Right? So, we have set up Parasite, and it's handling just the setup for Parasite. We have initialize, and it's only handling the initialize. It also handles changing the state from initialize to pathing. But then when you go to pathing, pathing is only handling the pathing. But it does also handle here transitioning out of pathing, right? But then if you go to dying or winning, you'll see it's only handling winning stuff, right? And this is handling dying stuff. And is any of the I think all of these winning will transition. So like when winning happens, it'll handle the this is it handling the sending the damage to the game manager, so that way it knows, or the observer. This is just an observer pattern, but it's sending that out to whoever cares about the amount of damage it should be doing, which is the goal. And that is, then it just goes and says, okay, it's time for me to do the death animation. And I just transition it. This is the state machine. I just transition it to a dying state. And since we already had set that up from set up dying, it's going to do this part, which is handle dying. And that's the running of this animation. If we have an effect on, so I'll show actually the data side of this, but the back end rather. And then it'll await to see when that animation is finished and finally queue free at the end of that. So let's actually take a look at just some of the back end. Like you'll see what the parasites actually are right now. Okay, so these are the 3 different parasites that you were seeing. All right, these are all 3 of them. And you saw we had 3 towers, but really only got to implement 1 of them. But yeah, so each parasite is effectively just a resource. This affects like what the visual, speedy, normal, or tanky, normal or tanky, will affect what the visual representation of that parasite is. The on death effect is empty for these. We never got the chance to make them. And for balancing, this is all balance here. I put combat, but basically, this is just the amount of health that each parasite has, and the health directly translates to the damage that is done to the end goal, as you saw over here. Right here. Right? We just take the health and then that's it. So this health is actually, this is a nice little thing. I'm not going to go into, there's a much, much heavier system that we never even really got to use, but it was fun making it for effects. And this actually just is a way of handling changing values using temporary objects. So like, let's say you want to give a buff for like 5 health or something like that, and then when the buff goes away, they lose 5 health or whatever, right? This is how you would kind of partition out that data. You'd put, while there is the data itself, which is this, there is the more temporal or runtime data, we can call it, over here, which is what's actually being changed, which is pretty cool. Right? We have a max and we have what's actually being changed, and we could just adjust that as we see fit. Normally what you would do though is you would make like a function like change health or change some stat or whatever it is, so that way you can regulate what that stat's value is. Typically what I would do is I'd actually just make a resource and just call it stat and then just give it that kind of logic, and we wouldn't be just changing the health directly, we'd be changing it through that function that's on that resource. Speed. Yeah, and so the speedy guys, they go at max speed. You'll also notice, I mean, if there's a desire to see it, so you'll notice here a thing about these towers. Play. The thing about these towers is that they rarely miss. They have their own arc and whatnot, and when you fire, boom, they know where to hit. Well, why is that? Now, obviously, we can't just have them target where this thing is, and we're not doing it in such a way that it's updating a position based on where it is. Because if you look, let's do a fast boy real quick. Okay, so if I send out a couple fast guys, you're gonna see that it's gonna shoot, but it doesn't matter, right? It picks up, and that isn't. It's kind of hard to show it, but that isn't like, it's not changing its position in real time. It already knows the destination that it's going to shoot. So it can technically miss if something were to throw off. Let's say, like, for example, if we had decided to have like some type of freeze, like you had the ability to command your parasites and tell them all to just stop moving, right? Which is something that we could have done. Then all of the towers would miss, or you could make all of the towers miss where they were going to, because they're aiming at where the parasites are going to be, not where the parasites are. So to do that, inside of the tower script, there's just some simple formula. Where is it? Handle attack. I think it's in the hand. Yeah, it's over here, right? So we just all we have to do first is we get the position of the tower and the position of the position of the object that is moving around the parasite. And then this is distance. I named it time because I just didn't feel like making two variables. So then we just reset this to being the actual time. Which is we're taking the speed that we shot the bullet out at. If we look at tower, we'll see that it has a bullet speed right here. So it's from 0 to 1. We can make this whatever we like, but I wanted 0 to 1. And then we multiply that by 15. There's a reason why it's 15. It's because the cap for the bullet is 15. So that's kind of a magic number, but it's more like, well, I wanted the bullets to work at that speed anyway, and then I just move this over here to handle that. And so then we divide that by, but like if I had made the bullet move, if I had made the multiplier of the bullet, because like this is 1, right? So if this was actually going at 1 bullets, or 0.9. So if this is actually going at 0.9 pixels per frame, it would look very wonky, and we could do that, but this number, I would have to just make this very big. Like I'd have to go something like, I don't know, like I guess to 15. I'd have to make this from 0 to 15, right? And but what's happening on the back end of this is that this 0.9 number is being multiplied by 15 to get the bullet to have that flow, and that was a magic number. So basically, on this side, I just took that 15 and said, okay, we always know there's going to be something multiplied by 15. And we know that the maximum that this can go is going to be 15, which is the bullet speed times whatever the number was that we passed in. And 15 is just always a really good number for some reason. 15, 30, and 45 are some of my favorite numbers when it comes to balancing out stuff. But yeah, basically, then we get the time, and this is how long it will take for the bullet to reach its destination. And then we have to now say, okay, we know how long it's going to take for the bullet to get to the object's position. But now that we have that, we want to take the object's speed and then find out, okay, what is that object's speed times the duration, how long it would take to get to that duration. Now, inside of the parasite is another magic number. So the parasite has also got the 0 to 1, but it's multiplying that 0 to 1 for its own speed, this number right here, by 525 on inside of it. So it's kind of doing the same thing this 15 is doing, which is allowing it to move 525 times its move speed per frame, which I'm just multiplying that now by the time that we already have. Like if I go inside a parasite, you'll see the same formula for its movement speed. I think I showed it before when we showed its pathing. And then from there, I made this script, which is doing very simple stuff. It's just attaching the projected speed to its progress to try it, and then pushing back out the global position, which is this, the projected position. The global position where the bullet or where the projectile needs to actually end up. And then we just shoot to, at that position and pass in also how long it's going to take to get to that position. And from there, the magic stuff is happening. So let's go back over here to the more visual side of it. Is this? No, it's over here. Okay, so this is the bullet arc, which is handling that, right? And if you look, this is the scene that the bullet is being instantiated from, and this is the curve. So we actually just make this curve, and the bullets are just following this curve as they're getting from their origin point to their destination. And that's it. That's basically what's happening here, and it's just handling that. We could just make as many different paths as we want, which was the idea. I wanted one of them to be like a straight laser beam, another one to have like a Z kind of zigzag, and everything, and they would have all hit dead on like 99% of the time. There is like a small chance that they'll miss, but it's minuscule. Like, yeah, basically it's like a 99% hit chance. It was intentional that way. I just didn't want it to be 100% on point, which is the reason why you see that instead of the direct 500 number from the Parasite side, I use 525, which throws it off a little bit. I could have done something like random here and then went between like 475 and 525, but I kind of wanted it to be like a little bit ahead because visually it looks better than if the bullet is behind them. Maybe I'll do random here down the road. When I did it before, or rather when I made the number 475 before, it just didn't look right with the bullet landing behind the parasite. Um, okay, so that's basically it. For the more complicated parts, we also implemented the targeting system, but I've showed it. I've showed how that works in my other stream, the one where I implemented the tab targeting in my main project. But yeah, that's basically it. So this is uh you're gonna find like two types of code here, right? You're gonna find the code of when I'm relaxed and putting stuff together, and you're gonna find the code of when I'm rushing, like this, and trying to meet a deadline, and it's just not as pretty. But it still is sticking to keeping everything inside of itself. So we know what adds damage does, add range does, we know what everything does. Based on just the fact that we're keeping all functions to a uh, single type of logic. That's it. So I'm gonna end the stream here. This was basically a quick reflection on the game jam. I'm not sure if I'll post a link. I probably should post a link to the actual project. I might do it. I might do it after the jam closes, so that way, because once the jam, I mean, it depends. So we put in a request for the ability to update the game's ticket with the jam coordinators, so that way we can fix the issue with the timer. But it's not game breaking enough that I think they're probably just going to say, no, the game runs perfectly fine. You just need to refresh the page each time that you play. But it would be nice if they let us change it. It was a quick uh, issue. It wasn't too big of a deal. But basically, if they do let us do that, then I'll post it sooner. If not, then after we do the post jam update on it, then I'll post a link. I don't feel like, I mean, it's not really a pride thing. It's more or less that, you know, you want people to have a good experience, and I'm not sure if the experience will be quite good. I mean, if you're willing to, if you want to look it up yourself, it's called Funky Parasites. So there's nothing stopping you from looking it up on itch.io. All right. So that's where I'm going to call it. Have a wonderful rest of your days. Take care.